How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and I am back live today with Jim Zub. This is
Hey,
third time on the channel, second
oh
time
my
live.
gosh.
Dude,
In Canada, we would call that a hat trick. I'm back again. So let's do it.
a hat trick. Okay, that's
right. It's a hockey term. Don't worry about it if you don't know it. It's all good.
So, dude, I have talked to you during your, like, I feel like it's like different eras of Conan. It was like right before you started writing it, like, or you had written it. It was about to go, like, it was right before Free Comic Book Day.
Right,
You didn't
for the
know,
Titan run,
you didn't know, the kind of feedback you were gonna get. And I remember reading it, like you had a copy with you, and I was like, oh, let me check it out. Oh my god, the art was amazing. Oh my god, this story is so good. And then I talked to you when you had been, you had just finished the first arc or about to finish it and started writing the second arc. You told me, you told us how long you were gonna plan to be on Conan.
Hoping to be on Conan, because I was still hoping. Like, I had been promised. So the new Conan initiative launched actually at San Diego Comic-Con 2023. So here we are. It's the third anniversary of our launch. It's so crazy to me, yeah.
Man, and now it's okay. And now I'm sure people have told you this. Now it seems like for the in the 70s, there were kids that grew up reading Conan that knew the name Robert E. Howard and knew the name Roy Thomas.
Yeah.
Now there's a generation of people that are reading Conan and know the name Robert E. Howard and Jim Zub.
That's very kind. Awesome. That's very kind. Roy's, the original comic guy, and he's done more than anyone will ever be able to do. And I feel we stand on the shoulders of frost giants, man. Like, it really does feel very, very special. But the run now, like, so we announced last year, actually at San Diego, that I'd signed a long-term contract to stay on the series. So I'll be writing the series through 2026 and 2027. So in the modern comic space, that's very, very unusual. This side of a Spider-Man or a Batman, you don't generally get those kinds of runs, let alone knowing ahead of time. Like, I remember talking to Chip when I signed the contract and we were chatting about stuff. And, he said, look, I might get a longer run on Batman than that. But from every 6 months or 12 months, you look over your shoulder and go, is it my time? And you're waiting to be like pulled up from the rapture or something from one of these gigs. So having the ability to know years from now what the story is going to be and what we're planning and what we're foreshadowing and what we're paying off, it's going to benefit the narrative so much. It's going to benefit the consistency of the book and the strength of what we're able to build and the time we're able to give the artists. I think that's the thing that has really, really, really benefited us. When people say, oh man, like every, story arc looks so good. And even when we change artists, it looks so good. The reason why is because we build out a really deep, long schedule. So to give you an understanding, sometimes, like Fernando Dagnino, who's currently drawing A Nest of Serpents, which is our 6th story arc and running in the monthly. That's from issue 21 to 24. Okay. He started drawing that thing, oh my God, months and months and months ago. I saw pages from him. I don't want to speak out of turn. I swear, like, start of the year, like January, you know what I mean? Like, he's had that 24th issue done for a while now. He's already on to his next Conan story. He's already working away on new stuff. And every issue he got stronger and stronger. Even more extreme is the example of, we just announced our 25th issue.
Yeah, I saw the cover.
Oversized monster. So Alex Horley is this phenomenal artist. He's been in the industry for quite a while. He's beloved. He's been doing a lot of Savage Sword covers for us. And I had this vision for our 25th issue being oversized and a self-contained story. I wanted it to be my first King Conan story. I pitched it to the Heroic team and they loved it. And I said, I want to give our regular artists a break. And I also want to sort of elevate. I want to get like an illustrator, like someone that can do, the whole thing, painted ideally. And Alex was someone who came up in that conversation. And I was like, he does covers, would he even want to do like an oversized interior, story? And we talked to him about it. And he said he was going to do it all traditional oil paintings. And so, but he said, looking at the deadline, it's going to take me, 10 months. And I went, 10 months? Oh my God. And he goes, so I need the script like now. And this was late last year. So I guess it wasn't even late last year. Again, this was end of the summer. This is like a year ago. And so I sent him a script September 2024, and he started sending character sketches and location stuff. And we were compiling reference September 2024. And he's finishing it up now because he was lavishing so much attention. We would get approximately an oil painting every week from this guy for this insane story that we're putting together. Mm-hmm. And on the one hand, it's like the most glorious thing ever. And then on the other hand, I feel guilty. Like, oh my God, this guy has spent a year of his life in this one story with a handful of covers on top. And he's having a blast. So I can't, feel bad, but I feel weird that like the amount of work he's putting into every single one of these pages, and they are all stunners. It's like cover quality across. You could take individual panels and blow them up and make them variant covers. That's how good they are. It is just one of the most beautiful, crazy, Conan stories I've ever seen. And to think that I've got my name on it is just like mind busting to me, just absolutely mind blowing.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. Do you know approximately how many pages it's going to be?
So the interior story on it is 34 pages, but it's going to be a 48-page issue because I think we're going to have just like always, we got Jeff Shanks does an essay. We're going to have some development sketches and character design stuff in there. It's essentially a double-sized issue. Yeah.
Okay. Now I know you can't speak of like the how long you will be on the book, but for something that you seem like you're enjoying,
right?
Something like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough of, like,
yeah.
Fans. And I know you hear that a lot, man.
No, I'm having the best time. It's been one of the most satisfying projects of my entire career. It's been amazing.
You deserve it, dude. You
deserve it. That's very kind. That's very kind. Seriously.
Anytime I've ever met you and the way that you treat fans, it's really cool to see somebody kind and talented finally get recognition. So
I feel like there's a lot of amazing people. Like, it was timing. It was the right, so much of it comes down to good fortune. But I do tell people, like, if you stay, I never would have anticipated this particular, success, let alone my second big chance on Conan after doing it at Marvel.
Yeah.
And this being the one, not to mix my metaphors too hard, but like to catch lightning in the bottle on the second strike. Like, it just feels very, very crazy. But I'm so happy that it's happened, obviously, and really trying to do right by the property and do right by the fans and myself. Like, I'm a huge fan and a reader as well. And so whenever I'm working with the team, you really see that passion. Like, every artist that's jumping on the book is tells us they grew up on Conan. They love, the classics, John Buscema and Barry Windsor Smith and Ernie Chan, and just this, incredible pantheon of artists, Frank Frazetta, and you just go on and on and on and on. And now we get to work with someone, Joe Gisko coming back to do his first Savage Sword cover in like 20 years, and things like that. Be able to, it's the craziest feeling, not just bringing back the monthly book, but then having it be successful enough that it's rolled out this line of books that Savage Sword's back and stronger than ever. That, the Solomon Kane miniseries, those event miniseries we've been able to put together with other Robert E. Howard characters, that what we've been trying to do is very carefully and controlled, expand the line out in a way that feels, we are passionate about it, but we're not just trying to, yes, we're selling books, but on the other hand, it's like justifiably and narratively, we know why we're putting this book out. We know what the fandom is interested in, and we're really deeply committed to making sure they're worth that cover price, whether that's the single issues, whether that's the collections, whether that's the omnibuses. And so that's what's been really, really cool, is proving our bona fides. Because I said to the team really early on when we were putting the plan together, I said, we've got just a few months to basically prove this is worth sticking around for. Otherwise, we lose this very unique opportunity to be at the ground floor of, one of the biggest characters in pop culture, a very fresh jumping on point that's very holistically like, this is where you begin. And when we point people towards that volume 1, towards Bound in Blackstone, we're telling people this is the right entry point. This is the new era of the new age of high adventure, or whatever you want to call it. And you're going to love it. And it's worth your time and it's worth your dollar. And that's what we've seen. We've seen this grassroots. I can't get into specific numbers, but I can tell you that, your typical sales attrition on a superhero comic, or most, whatever, monthly comics that come out into stores, is it launches like a bat out of hell because of variants and because people buy number ones. You'll lose at least half your audience on the second issue. And then you'll sometimes, quite often, lose another half or lose another 40% on the next issue. And you hope to hell that you can level out by issue 3, 4, 5 to something manageable in order for you to continue publishing. And our numbers barely budged from 2 to 3. And then issue 3 to issue 22, we've had a variance of 10%. And now it's gone down a little bit and then is climbing. So the sales for issue 21 are higher than 20, and 20 was higher than 19, and 18 is higher than 17. And so we've seen this like very, very slight dip, and that attrition you could easily attribute to, the collapse of diamond distribution. And then we're climbing up again. So people are, the grassroots good word of mouth is incredible. Retailers are really supporting the series in a way that has transformed my career, but also really transformed Titan as well.
Yeah, I am loving what Titan is doing as far as new story
right now. Yeah,
it's the classic stuff. The Marvel stuff. When last I interviewed you, the first omnibus had come out of their continuation of Savage Sword 9.
Yeah, it was either just coming out or about to come out.
Yeah, and totally. To see that product come out and to match it to the previous releases done by Marvel.
And that's another one of those examples.
Never seen a company do
of the respect where you're like, look, we know you've committed a pretty serious amount of money for these for these omnibuses, right? For those right there. And so we're all big collectors, and that shelf presence it's a real thing, man. You want those spines to line up. You want right.
I have never seen, even within the company.
Yeah,
even
they'll change
Marvel and DC will change the spines, will change things.
And so
I've never seen anybody honor
we're all giant nerds for this stuff, and we want our shelves to look good, man. Like there's a reason why I got a full set there. When I wasn't writing Conan anymore at Marvel, I was still buying the last of the omnibuses because I got to get my collection too, And so that's the thing. I think when we sit down and we discuss a new project or we discuss an initiative, we sort of look at ourselves and we have to justify, would I want this as a Conan fan? Would I want this as a Robert E. Howard guy? Is this upholding, and I can't say we're going to be perfect and we're never, ever going to make a mistake, because that's just foolish. But I can tell you that we always are passionate about it. We're always doing our damnedest to deliver the best damn thing we can, And the editorial team's really wonderful. I'm working with Chris Butera and Ashley Hodgkins, and they're really great. Ashley is one of the only assistant editors I've ever had where they're like, because we've got this long schedule and we've built it out, she messages me and says, can you send us your convention calendar? We don't want to bother you during a convention unless it's an emergency. And you're just like, I know that sounds straightforward, but normally editors aren't keeping track of your schedule. They got their own schedules to deal with. They're not, right. It's just deadline. And they're very much like, well, because we built it out and because I've written so far ahead, it's not that breakneck kill yourself. Oh my God, we have to make changes right now because it's going to the printer. Oh, tomorrow. And so I feel everyone gets longer to look at the material. The pages come in and we get to talk about them longer, and we get to really kind of lavish the sort of attention that I've always wanted to on these books that deserve it, and not being afraid, well, we can't approve that next storyline because we don't know if the book's even going to be going. You're like, no, the book's going to keep going. Like I'm on this, like I said, 2026, 2027, we've planned this stuff out. So now it's just a matter of executing to the best that we can and getting the right artists and the right crew every single time. So someone like we've got a new event book coming this fall. We did the free comic book day for Scourge of the Serpent.
Yeah. So that's the new thing that's happening within the pages of Conan, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's tying into this greater event, just like we did last year with Battle of the Blackstone. And we had Jonas Scharf come in and do Battle of the Blackstone last year. I love working with Jonas. He's a phenomenal artist. And clearly those pages made people sit up and take notice because Marvel snapped him up for an exclusive. And in my head, I had him like, he's our event guy. We're going to use him every year. And Marvel man, it's a great offer. You got to take it. So Jonas was off the table, and I was like, oh crap. Okay, we need someone else. And the good thing is that you've got so many artists who are passionate about the property. They grew up on this stuff. They love this stuff. So, friend of a friend, and I get this message out of the blue from this guy named Ivan Gill. He's been working in the European, you know what I mean by bande dessinée, like the oversized kind of graphic novels in the French market. And he did these Napoleonic, absolutely stunning graphic novels. We're talking armies of, horseback soldiers crashing into each other and muskets and explosions, like just unreal artwork. And he messages me out of the blue and he said, I grew up on Conan. I absolutely love this stuff. If there's ever a chance to do a cover or a pinup, I would do anything to work on it. And I thought, is that all you want to do, is just a pinup, just a variant cover? Like, we can, I'll send this on to my editor and I have no doubt that they'll be impressed. And he was like, I'm actually coming to the end of a graphic novel. I don't know what's coming next. And I was like, I think I know. And so I put him in touch with our editor and we all had a conversation about it. And I was like, look, this second event book we're doing, Scourge, is really complicated. There's multiple locations, multiple time periods. We're dealing with a lot of very specific reference. This guy, Ivan, draws locations like few artists I've ever seen, absolutely lavishes attentions on the backgrounds as much as the characters. I feel like he's really got the atmosphere. Can we talk to him about potentially doing this? And we were able to get it all worked out with his schedule. And again, get him going as early as possible. So he was done drawing that free comic book day book months and months and months before release. And so then we got the right colorist. So then we've got all the pieces in place. And that's why the books look so friggin' good,
So you've mentioned how much longer you've got stories for, but do you see yourself on this book like as much fun as you're having for the next couple of years?
Absolutely. That's the thing, is I'm signed on the contract for 2026 and into 2027. And so that's what's cool about it. I'm not afraid of where we at a year from now. I know exactly where we're at a year from now because I'm writing those stories. And so
that's awesome, dude.
It's the best feeling. It's so weird to me. In some ways, the most difficult thing for me is keeping track of what's been released so that I don't publicly spoil some cool upcoming storyline. Because it's already on the paper. It's already happening. We're already talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We were on a call last week doing prep for San Diego, and I mentioned some plot point that has come up in earlier meetings. And Chris, the editor, is like, oh yeah, that's right. When is that happening again? And I said, well, that's issue 29. And then we go, okay, so that's October, November, December. So 25 is October. So November, December is 25, 26, 27, 20. So that's late February next year. And it's like, okay, that's when that thing is paying off. Cool, great, no problem. Whether or not there's a free comic book day next year, I know what the free comic book day book or equivalent, prelude issue is going to be for our next event. I've already got that kind of built and why it works that way and things like that. So things can change, and there should be. If you come up with better ideas, you should always adjust. Like, the plan doesn't have to be set in stone, but having a good plan and knowing that it works, we can then just improve upon it. That's what's so nice about the way things are going right now, and the structure that we've got in place and the team that we've got in place, just the artists that we're working with. Like I said, Fernando Dagnino is absolutely phenomenal. Ivan Gill on Scourge is just absolutely crushing it. Alex is doing these insano paintings. Doug Braithwaite's going to be back doing a future story arc as well. What more could you ask for? Dilatori has been doing Savage Sword, black and white stuff that's just to die for. Issue 10 of Savage Sword's coming out in September, and that issue is a Scourge of the Serpent tie-in. So just like we did with issue 4, all the stories are thematically and character-wise going to
that's right. With the
Blackstone.
Now, is that something that Roberto wanted to do, was do black and white? Because that reminds me of Big John.
Dilatori really loves the black and white. He loves Savage Sword. He did that story in issue 7 with Roy Thomas. So Roy Thomas, and him worked together on this beautiful feature length story for Savage Sword. And it's an absolute knockout. Like, it's just crazy beautiful. And so that's where Rob's feeling most kind of comfortable. And it's also where he's got the time to sort of build out. He's been dealing with some other personal stuff on the side. And so the monthly book was just not going to be sustainable for the kind of stuff that he wanted to do. And that's totally fine. Great. Let's find a good place for him. Savage, have you seen those pages Liam Sharp has been doing for Savage Sword? Like, I wish I was writing it, but Liam's writing and drawing his own stuff.
I saw his,
and it's like just the most ridiculous, beautiful. Like, next time I see him in person, I have to try and beg him to write a story that he will illustrate, because it's just such stunning work. But Zurcher's in the same boat.
He's been trying to get on some kind of Conan. Well, it's kind of crazy how much he's just throwing his stuff out there, and his stuff is stellar. And
it's unbelievable. Zurcher's doing great work on Solomon Kane.
Yeah,
he just did a Conan story in the newest Savage Sword. Like, everyone on the team, like I said, it's just this murderer's row of crazy talent. Ben Dewey is an amazing illustrator. You may not know his work as much, but he's phenomenal. He's been wanting to do a Conan story for years. So him and Zach Davison are doing a Conan story, and he's been posting some pages from it. Again, some of the best work of his career. You can't, the passion is undeniable. That's what's so cool about it, is that everyone that gets the chance to be a bard for the barbarian, man, like, we all just, it brings something really cool out of us. It feels like one of those. He's just one of those characters. He is a Spider-Man. He is a Batman. He is a Wonder Woman. He is an icon, within that genre, within that space. And those times when you get to write something or draw something, it brings something cool out of you, man. I'm like, I learn so much every single story I work on, every single project. But when you get to play at this level, it's like, it won't always be like this, and that always feels really special. That's why San Diego this week is going to be so cool. Oh God, I just said this week. It's like, it's really dawning on me. It's this week. I'm literally packing my bags tomorrow, and I fly out crack of dawn on Wednesday. But that show, because we launched Conan there 2 years ago, and because so many San Diegos have been so formative to my creative career, it feels like a celebration. It feels like this milestone that happens every year. We go to the city, and you hang out with your friends, and you meet new people, and projects and wellsprings come out of it. You try and plan around it as much as you can, but there's always going to be some weird moment you never anticipated that is going to make the show for you. Some interaction, or some, hey, you got to meet so-and-so. And the next thing you know, you're palling around with some of your favorite people in the industry or Hollywood or something bizarre, and just kind of loving every minute of it, even when it's bonkers. So, yeah.
Do you get to ever meet the team that you're working on with Conan? Like, have you met?
Well, that's what's this thing's. So I haven't met De La Torre in person. I actually went to Spain at the end of May, and one of my goals was to meet De La Torre. So he lives, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, he lives in Spain. Okay. And we were going to hang out together, and then he had a bit of a health emergency that kept him from coming up to Madrid. And so, but Fernando Dagnino's there, and Ivan Gill's there, and another good friend of mine, Alberto Albuquerque, who I'm working with on a potential new project, is there. And then Pepe Larraz is there, who I did some Avengers stuff with. Yeah. And so we just hung out. I still did. Like, I did 2 signings in Madrid in 4 days that I was there. And I was really nervous about it, because you never know. Like, some signings I've done have been really crazy, and then other ones, they're just dead. You just bad timing and whatever may have you. And normally you only do, you do 1 signing. But both Fernando and Ivan knew different store owners in Madrid, and they kind of wanted to, help their buddies out. And so we did these 2 signings, and the first one was crazy. It was at this place called Art 9. And I thought, okay, that'll be the crazy signing, which means the other one's going to be dead. And then the second one was crazier. And I just thought, oh my God, okay. I can't believe this. The Spanish fans just came out in force. And
there's so many people all over the world, dude.
Well, the book's so the current Titan run is now in 11 languages, which is also crazy. So we get fan mail for Conan like I have never received in my entire life. And I've sold more books like at times doing Avengers with Mark Waid and Al Ewing during Infinity War, or working on Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons at the height of the kind of Rick and Morty craze, and D&D is Ascendant and all that stuff. We probably sold more of those books out of the gate, but they were always built off those other properties. That you were excited about the Avengers because it was the biggest movie in the world. You were excited about Rick and Morty because it was the hottest show on television. We're ancillary to that excitement, and we're part of it, but we're not a big part. You know what I mean? Right now, there's no new Conan movie. There's no brand new Conan video game. We're the sharp tip of the spear. We're the reason why people are talking about Conan and why they're super, super excited about it. So if you love Conan the Barbarian, our book is on the tip of your tongue in terms of that conversation. And that's what's different about it. That's what feels so special about it, is that the fans are like locked in on this book and super, super pumped every single month. Fred Malmberg, he's the head of the Conan team, the guys that own Conan at Heroic. And he put it in a really cool way. He said, once a year you can, like once a generation, you hope you can put a movie out. And once a year you might put a novel out, or once every 5 years you put a video game out. But the comic book is the beating heart of the Conan franchise. If there's a good comic coming out every 30 days, it's a heartbeat. It reminds people this property's awesome. It looks great. It's worth remembering and being a part of. And so we feel a real deep sense of responsibility to deliver on that every single month,
I know that a lot of people have, and I know you've heard this, have gone back to the comic book store to become Wednesday Warriors. And some haven't been to a comic book store in over a decade. Man,
it's the craziest. I like the first year of the new Conan launch, the 2023 into 2024. I remember being at New York Comic Con. So issue 2 was just coming out. And I met 5 or 6 of these guys who were old enough to be my dad. And they told me they had read Conan through the 70s and they had stopped going to the comic store on a regular basis. And they were so excited about the new book, and they were back in the comic store regularly. They were locked in, they got a pull file and everything, and that they felt like this had really brought them around. And I met 1 or 2 retailers who told me the same thing. That was at New York 2023. By March 2024, so we're only talking like 5 months later, I'm at Emerald City Comic Con, and there were 50 or 60 of those guys old enough to be my dad, came over. At one point, I had the craziest sort of anecdote where this guy comes over. I've got a line going, which, is an amazing feeling. And this dude comes over and just sort of pours his guts out saying how much Conan means to him. And he's been reading it since the 70s, and it's his favorite thing in the universe. And when he reads my book, he feels like he's 15 again. And the guy behind him is starting to get annoyed. I like the expression on his face. And I'm like, crap, I'm taking too long with this guy. The line's getting kind of, I don't want to like ignore this dude who's telling me this really heartfelt stuff, but on the other hand, people's time and everything else. So I'm feeling this weird thing, and I'm very thankful, and I really appreciate it. I sign all the guy's stuff, and he buys a couple extra things, and I sign those as well. And then we send them off, and the next guy steps up, and I'm like, okay, I got to work extra hard to kind of bring this guy around because he's had to wait so long. And he's pouting. He's genuinely pouting. He's sort of like, and I'm like, what can I do for you? And he goes, yeah, what that guy said, me too. And I was just like, what? And he goes, he said everything I want to say. He ruined it for me. I wanted to tell you the exact same thing. And I was like, that's why he was mad. Not that he had to wait a long time in line, but that he wanted to be the one to tell me the thing. Do you know what I mean? And he was just one of many. Oh. And it was this wild feeling of, oh my God, like we've really, really struck a chord with the classic fan base. And we've got younger readers coming in and trying it for the first time because they feel like they can get their hands around it, and the fact we've been able to do both. And retailers, again, telling me they were like, we've got, we're selling almost as many Conans as we sell of X-Men, like, or dude, I got guys I haven't seen in my store in 25 years, and now they're locked in every month. And when they come, they don't just buy Conan. They're buying Savage Sword, and they're buying back issues. They're like, we used to throw Conan back issues, in the quarter bin or in the dollar bin or whatever. And now we're turning collections. People are bringing in Savage Sword, and those are hot. I can package those up and sell them as a block. And I'm just like, what? This is a good one. So I'm at Orlando. I never had a Conan.
Oh, yeah.
That's a 1970s Conan #1. It's a beauty. I didn't have one. And so I'm at Orlando for MegaCon, and I'm wandering around, and there's the extremes. You get a CGC 9.6 and it's $10,000, or it looks like it's been run over by a car 20 times and it's $50. And I'm just like, I don't want either of those. I just want a nice raw copy that looks good and like clean, solid. And I see one, and and it's a pretty good price for what it is in terms of rarity and everything else. And I start talking to the retailer. We're having an amazing conversation. He's a real sweet guy. And all of a sudden he just glances down at my badge. And at MegaCon, they got names on the badges.
Oh, okay.
Goes, oh, damn, you're the Conan guy. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I was going to bring like a bunch of my customers' books tomorrow to get signed. And I said, well, if you got them right here, I'll do them right now. And so he pulls out like half a short box, and I just start signing Conan's, and we're chatting up a storm. And then he goes, why don't you have this, the 1970 #1? And I said, well, they don't give them to you when you get the job. It's not like they got them in the back room and they're like, welcome to Conan. Here's your #1 from, Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith. Like, that's not how it works. I said, I just don't have one. He goes, you need this. I said, I do need it, actually. And so we finished signing, and we're laughing and chatting. And then he goes, why don't you just take that for 50% off? Because you did me a solid, and I don't have to wait in line tomorrow. And I was like, cool, man. Like, that's the best, and there's this weird kind of shared fandom of, yeah, we're Conan guys. Cool. Sweet. Now, so that's one of the reasons why I keep it right there.
That's great, man. I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah.
Mr. Zub, when starting to write a new story, which do you concentrate on first? Character, plot, setting, or theme? Also, will you write a comics writing book?
Okay. So I think this is not going to be, it's not a nice, clean formula. So sometimes I almost feel like you find a foundational kind of corner and then you build outwards. Sometimes that is a character. So you say, man, I've got this cool idea for an antagonist. Or if this is a brand new story that's not Conan, a protagonist, like who is this going to be and what is going to happen to them that is such a cool thing. Sometimes it's like a theme and you're trying to find characters that can plug into that theme. Sometimes it's a setting and you're like, this place is evocative and I want to find and tell you cool things about it. And sometimes it's a combination of those things and they sort of take on their own gravity and they start to, you attach pieces and pieces and pieces to it and build out the plot and build out the series of events. And then sometimes format, also dictates story. So, this issue 25 of Conan, I knew I had an extra page count, but we were also not doing a multi-part story. So you need to pace it out so that it's going to pay off over the course of that one story. And so comics are really unique that way, that our format is very, very tight in the sense of, it feels a little bit, I'm going to have 22 pages of story a month. Like I can't just randomly say, and thank you very much for that question. I can't say, hey, I want 24 pages this month. Like that's very rare that I can just ask for, because that changes the way the book is printed. It changes what we call the pagination, how many pages we have at the back for ads and for editorial and all those other things. It adds to the budget. It adds to the schedule of the artist and the letterer and the colorist and everyone else. And so you have to fit within that container. And that's a very unique thing about comics, I find, in that regard. In terms of writing, it's funny that you mentioned about having a comic writing book, because I've actually, on my website, if you go to jimzub.com, there's a right-hand column on the website, unless you're on your mobile phone. But if you're on a browser, you'll see a little column that says Comics School. And there's like 40 plus free articles that I've written all about how to write comic books, how to pitch stories, how to work with artists and editors, all the stuff that I learned as I was learning it. Some of those articles are 15, 16 years old, but all the advice is still relevant because it's just about working in the business. It's not like use this one specific program or use this website. It's just, here's good narrative theory and here's what makes comics unique and things like that. I've also got a YouTube channel. I don't update it, to the same degree, obviously, someone like Near Mint does, but I try and update every so often with interviews with people or tutorials or examples of the things that I covered in those articles. So I actually walk through, here's a comic book script. Here's how I wrote this particular thing, and here's what the artists, how they interpreted it, and here's what they do and why they do it the way they do. And so real clear examples for people. I don't know if I would ever formalize that into a writing book. I'm probably leaving money on the table, but maybe that's something I do in my elder years, is pull all that material together in some kind of book. But for now, the good news is it's basically free. If you wanted to throw me a couple bucks, you could go to my Patreon, where I have an archive of my older scripts, 300 plus scripts from pretty much every major publisher in North America. And then you can see exactly what I pitched for the story, how much I wrote for that pitch to the editor, what my script was, how the artist interpreted it, and every step of that process. And it's basically the cost of a coffee. You get to dig through 300 plus scripts that I've written over the years and compare the professional work with, like the writing work with the published work. So yeah. How's that? That's pretty good, right?
That was a great answer, man.
Thanks.
That was a great answer. You had mentioned how long you're going to be on a book. So
yeah,
this being collected editions base, like
you want to know about
come on, talk to me, Zub.
So good news is, did you see in the solicits we've got the deluxe edition of Bound in Blackstone coming in October? So that's an oversized hardcover
of volume 1. Yeah, I got to announce that one.
So that's going to have a bunch of supplementary material in the back. I've seen a bunch of the design work from Editorial they're going to include in there. I think some of the rough cover stuff as well. Butera, our editor, did an extensive interview with me. I think I wrote, I want to say almost 4,000 words in terms of an interview. Like we go deep dive in terms of working on the story and developing the mythology and working with the original Howard material. And so it's pretty extensive in terms of how much we talk about and working on Conan and what it means mythologically. Plus you've got all the Jeff Shanks essay material. So it's going to be a real beautiful thing. The thing that they won't send me. So Roy Thomas is doing the introduction to that collection. And
oh my God, are you kidding me?
Which I didn't know about. And I actually found out by accident. So I was in England in May and I went up to the Titan office and we were hanging out and they were putting together the catalog pages for the deluxe. And it had a big, thing in the corner that says new introduction by, Conan classic scribe, Roy Thomas or whatever. And I went, wait, is that true? And all of a sudden they go, oops, you weren't supposed to know that. And I was like, what the hell? And so I immediately, as soon as I got home, I emailed Chris and I said, dude, you got to send me Roy Thomas's intro. And he goes, no, you can see it when it comes out. And I was just like, dude, what, I got to know what the grandfather of Conan comics thinks of our Conan comics. And he was like, you will. And I was like, oh my God. So that's the thing that even I'm going to be, when I get my advanced copies, that's what I'm going to open with trembling fingers and hope he didn't.
I'm sure it'll be nothing but kind words.
Well, I sort of joke the two extremes, right? We open it up and he doesn't even mention the book. He just talks about his own Conan writing. Or we open up the book and he goes, not bad, kid, Roy Thomas.
Hey, it's still Roy Thomas.
No, it's cool.
An introduction, but that's really cool. I didn't know that
there
was going to be an intro. I love his introductions and every.
Yeah, man, that guy is exhaustive. He
how does he remember?
Well, apparently he has extensive journals he used to keep. So when he would finish a week of work, or he would write what he did every day. So he has notebooks full of, well, today I wrote this and I wrote that and I read this and I read that. And so he can literally tell you the day he called whatever artist and offered them a gig. And he could go back through his notes and go, that was the day I sent so-and-so a contract, or that was the day we negotiated the page rate. Apparently it's that exhaustive, that kind of compulsive.
Why do I see him flipping through a Rolodex?
Yeah.
Old school Rolodex. Well, let's see what happened in May 15th of 1979.
Whereas I've got pretty extensive notes, but not like that. I can go back through emails and find out correspondence with people, but not like that. That's just bonkers.
I've been loving all the Conan stories.
Cool.
One of my favorites every month.
Oh, very cool.
Cover 2. Looking forward to.
Thank you so much, Michael. I got to tell you, man. That's the thing that's also been a cool ripple effect, is that because the Titan Conan's doing so well, my backlist is selling again. So the D&D stuffs, the old trade paperbacks are selling. The Marvel Conan, those trades, because I was writing the monthly series during the lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those trades did not have good print numbers, like,
Nope.
and so trying to get a copy of Into the Crucible or, you know, Land of the Lotus is pretty difficult. That's one of the things I was talking to Titan about. And I've been trying to convince them. I said, we should do a pre-Titan Zub omnibus.
Yeah,
so then you get your Conan Red Sonja, because I did that with Gail at Dark Horse. That was my very first Conan writing gig, 2015. You've got my Savage Sword story from the new Marvel run. You've got, you know, 13 issues I did of the monthly, plus you've got Serpent War. And so that feels like an omnibus to me. So I would love to see that happen someday. So then people can get everything I did pre-Titan. So, and
Titan seems to have a good relationship with Marvel. They are the only company that is able to print the Marvel logo on reprints.
Yeah. I think, you know, the history of Conan Marvel is very special, and we all kind of know that. And so I think that, yeah, they've maintained a really solid relationship kind of across the board as far as that goes. And the reality is that I think they know it's in everyone's best interest for readers to be able to get access to that archival material. And like you said, have it be consistent along the shelf. And people feel like they can really celebrate those runs, you know. And now we're hitting a point where the Titan trade, the omnibuses are going to hit the King Conan stuff.
Oh my God, Volume 2, dude. That's I'm so ready for that.
I'm super pumped.
I've never read that stuff.
These readers who are coming on board, and they're you know, backfilling in and reading some of my older stuff, or they're, you know, checking out my creator-owned work like Skull Kickers, like Wayward, and things like that. That feels extra special to me, where I've built enough trust that you're like, well, I wonder what else this guy has done over the years, you know, and that feels really cool to me.
So speaking of other work, hey brother,
Makeshift
Miracle is a masterpiece.
That is the oldest of the old. So that's my original webcomic series. That was the reason. Makeshift Miracle was the reason I went to San Diego Comic-Con for the very first time in 2002. So Scott McCloud, the guy, you know, Understanding Comics, Scott McCloud, he had reached out to me online because I was doing this webcomic, and he really liked it and blew my mind. I had a Hotmail address. He had emailed my Hotmail address to let me know he liked my webcomic. Oh man, this is as 2000 as it gets, doesn't it? And he convinced me that, you know, webcomics were going to come into their own, and there was going to be a great, lively community discussion at San Diego Comic-Con, and would I like to be a part of it? And I was like, I don't even know what that means or how that would work. I was working, you know, just trying to pay down student debt. How am I going to get there in terms of travel? Where am I going to stay, and how can I afford a hotel? And how am I going to pay for a badge? And thanks to Scott and the people that he introduced me to, I had someone to crash with at San Diego, another comic book artist at the time. And he got me a professional badge. He convinced them that I was a working professional because I was in the animation industry, and got me enrolled for a pro badge. So now I had 2 of the 3 things figured out. And my brother, I told my brother, who's my older, you know, proto nerd, and he was like, I can't believe the Understanding Comics guy is like communicating with you. I'm like, I can't believe it as well. You know, and he said, you got to go to San Diego. And I said, there's just no way. Like, I can't afford a flight. This was going to be, you know, $500-600 that I just could not afford at that time. And my brother secretly contacted my dad and basically was like, my parents are not nerds at all. They still barely understand this stuff. And he was like, you're never going to understand what's going on, but Jim's had this offer to go to this conference, and if he doesn't go, he's going to regret it for the rest of his life. And so my dad, sight unseen, not understanding what I do or what I wanted to do, literally just put an airplane ticket on his credit card and bought me a flight to San Diego.
No, that's parenting.
It was the greatest, right? It changed my life because I got to meet a bunch of these creators in person who had just been sort of mythical to me. And they treated me like a peer, which seemed insane to me. And it inspired me to just want to make more comics and entertain people for the rest of my days, like telling stories. And so Makeshift Miracle is this secret, not secret. It's a lot lesser known than a bunch of my other stuff. and it's this quiet kind of introspective story, and it's surreal and strange, and a lot of my own kind of fears and misgivings, at that age, sort of on the page. And yeah, man, when people bring one of those up to the booth to get signed, it's always really special to me, because you're sort of like, oh, either you're OG, like you've been reading my stuff since the early 2000s, or you've gone back and you've tapped into the archive, and that means a hell of a lot to me. So thank you so much, man. That is really cool for you to, be able to tell that story and remind me. And it's crazy too, because I think some people, they don't realize the kind of different projects I've done over the years. I had a guy send me a thing about the Figment comic that I did, the Disney Kingdoms, this kids comic that I did for Marvel. It was ostensibly my first Marvel project, literally like 10 years ago, I think 2013, 2014. And I get kids bring me these, or Disney fans bring me that graphic novel. And they're like, I can't believe the guy that wrote that also wrote whatever, Avengers or Thunderbolts or Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. And it's like, well, first of all, we're all full of multitudes, like we all have different, things. And for me, each project is kind of its own challenge. And so it's not about me trying to impose my voice on all these properties. It's about trying to understand what makes them special and then make them as cool and exemplify those qualities that I love about them as much as I can. So in that way, I always joke that every campaign's like a D&D. Every project's like a D&D campaign, because I'm role playing. I'm like, all right.
I always remember you telling me that years ago. Yeah. And I was like, so every time I'm reading Conan, when I'm not caught and lost in the moment, I'm like, right. Man, I bet Jim's just having his little figures like put
it's not like it's not quite Spaceballs where I'm playing with the dolls or whatever. It's more of a mental exercise.
Right. I'm not here to judge. I'm just
that would be amazing. You're like, and then Valeria walks in and she's really sexy and mad. And you're like, maybe not. Let's not do that. That's all. It is kind of funny though. My wife will come walking by and I'll be I always read my dialogue out loud, because when you type it out, it sounds one way in your head.
Oh,
it sounds differently. So I don't do like crazy voices, but sometimes my wife will walk by my office and I'm literally like reading out a line of dialogue or something. And she just chuckles as she's walking past, because I'm, whatever, I'm Conan or I'm Belith or I'm like one of these characters. And I'm just saying this in like a, stern way, or like trying to get the cadence of the voice and make sure that it sounds like the characters. And that's kind of a weird exercise, but it's the job, whatever. There are worse fates, so.
I'm going to get this super chat. Hello, Omar and Jim. Just want to say my two favorite Conan writers.
Yes.
Will Thomas.
Oh my God, Alfredo, $100. What are you doing? I think Omar told me I'm getting 50% of all the super chats. Was that what we agreed
as long as you sign my 50 copies.
It's fine. It all comes out in the wash. That's awesome, man. Alfredo's amazing, by the way. He's like a true fan. We met in person at Robert E. Howard Days last year, and we had a wonderful conversation all about Howard and Conan and all that stuff. Dude, I really look forward to seeing you in San Diego.
Robert E. Howard Days? What is this?
Oh, okay. This is where I do that fanboy thing. You don't know about Howard Days? But yeah, so what it is.
Go ahead, do it.
So wait a minute, Omar, you don't know about Howard Days? So what Howard Days is?
Busy reading comics. What is Howard Days?
So Howard, the birthplace of Robert E. Howard, where he lived most of his life and where he passed away, is called Cross Plains. It's in the middle of Texas, little rural town. We're talking population less than 1,000.
Wow.
The Howard House is now an American Heritage Home, and it's a museum. It doesn't have regular hours because it gets so few visitors. Literally, when you show up to this place, you see this little house in the middle of nowhere. There's a sign on the door and there's a phone number you call. And one of the two little old retired ladies who runs the place walks down the street, unlocks it, and gives you a little tour. There's a gift shop. It's very beautiful. They've got all these cool items and some unique things. And if you buy any of the books there, they have a stamp that says that you bought it at the Robert E. Howard Museum.
Oh, okay.
Once a year, usually the weekend closest to the death of Robert E. Howard, they have an event called Howard Days. And that's a celebration where people come from all over the country, sometimes from other countries, go down to the Howard House, spend the weekend together, hanging out and nerding out, reading passages from the Howard stories, touring around the grounds, doing panels, poetry readings, and there's usually announcements and events and things like that. The Robert E. Howard Foundation that helps run the event, they give out a series of awards based on Howard scholarship and on work that they feel exemplifies the qualities of sword and sorcery and horror writing that Howard had. It's just a really cool, very in-depth fan event, and it doesn't feel like a convention because it's very small. We're talking a couple hundred people, so it feels like a weird family reunion barbecue where we're all obsessed with the same stuff and we're all hanging out. There's a handful of vendor tables, and the vendor tables are hilarious because literally some guy will be there with boxes of like dollar Conan comics, you know, dog-eared old issues. And beside them is a guy selling original copies of Weird Tales, you know, sealed in CGC for $10,000. And like, these are just one table apart. Like it's crazy and it's really neat. And so Howard Days has been running now. This year was the 39th year. I didn't make it this year. I went last year. Jeff Shanks, the guy who writes all the essays in the back of the Conan stuff, he's a regular. He's part of the foundation and he goes there every year and hangs out with people. He convinced me to go last year. He'd been wanting me to go for years. And I was really nervous about it because these are the hardcore of the hardcore. They're the people who can quote line and verse of the Howard stories at you. And I was just like, are these people going to treat me like I'm a usurper? Like I'm some dude that came out of nowhere and now I got the keys to the fancy Trans Am? Like I don't know how it's going to be. And I went and I had a wonderful time. Everyone was very sweet. We had a really cool weekend. And so I wasn't able to make it this year, but I'm planning to go next year because next year is the 40th anniversary of Howard Days. And so it's going to be anyone who's everyone, you know, guys like Mark Finn, who wrote Blood and Thunder, the biography of Robert E. Howard, which I have right here. He's there every year. Or like, you know, just all sorts of different people like Jeff and scholars. And this guy, Bill Cavalier, he's one of the people who hands out the awards every year. He's an absolute sweetheart. Or Rusty Burke, who's like the guy who organized the original Howard Days 40 years ago. These are regulars who go every single year pretty much. And then there's other people who come in and out from year to year. And so you do feel like you're part of this broader kind of incredible legacy. It's sort of mind-bending when you're there. You have these weird moments. Last year, they were able to get Howard's original writing table. They used to have a table that was sort of a facsimile of the closest they could get to it. But they found the original writing table because Cross Plains is such a small town. That piece of furniture had been sold to someone else. And they were able to authenticate it that it was actually his original writing table.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so while I was there at Howard Days, they brought the original table back and they put it in his writing room where it would have been. And right after they put it down, everyone's standing there and they take a bunch of photos. And then Jeff says, "Jim, go sit at the table." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Of course." And I sat at the table, and it's weird, man. It's just a table and it's just a room and it's just a house. But there was something really cool and something very special about it. And you do feel this weird, incredible, that the stories are so powerful and they have such legacy that people literally travel from all over the world just to be there and to hang out and to celebrate together. And there's the website right there. And that's what makes it special. It's a really, really neat thing. You know, the year I went last year, they had their biggest year ever. And they said, you know, Jim, you did a lot of promotion and probably 50, 60 people are here because of you. And I said, well, that's cool. Like, I'm just here because of all of you guys. So it all feels like it's very synergistic in that sense. And if I can do something to help them out and to help the foundation and stuff, then that makes it even cooler. So it's a really neat event. Long story short, that's why I met Alfredo. He's one of the coolest guys out there. He's just loves the property, loves doing this stuff. And getting to see him there in person. Some of these people, you know, like meeting you in person was really, really awesome. We got to chat, you know, in person. It makes a difference. These video streams are great and they're super convenient, but there's something really fun about being in person and sharing in the kind of excitement at a convention or at an event like this. And even Jeff, you know, Jeff and I had been working together for a couple of years at that point. First of all, I didn't know how tall he was because, you know, a Zoom camera, you don't know how tall someone is. Right. And all of a sudden I walk up and I go, "Oh, you're taller than I was expecting." He just started laughing. but then just hanging out. We got in a day early last year. So Sean Curley, he does the official Conan YouTube channel. If you've never checked that out,
people have tagged me on it. Yeah, so I know
he's awesome. He's a great dude. He came down with us and we shot like 7 or 8 hours worth of interview footage that they're going to be still using for the next couple years. We wandered around the grounds and all this stuff. And just being there at the house in the morning, we got there first thing. We were waiting for one of the ladies that runs the place to come unlock the door. And Jeff and I are sitting on the porch, like on the Dr. Howard's porch, his father's, and no one else is there. It's just us in this little backwater, Texan town. And I'm like, we're sitting on the Howard porch. And he goes, "Oh yeah, this is weird to you. I do this every year." And I was like, "Well, it's weird to me." I'm still figuring out what this all means. And cool memories, that's for sure.
I never think about this until like doing like a video on Conan, mm-hmm. and I don't think about how young he was.
Oh my God, that's what's so crazy.
I don't know why. I never think about it when Howard passed away.
Dude, that's what's so absolutely crazy about it. He was 30 when he passed, right? And so you're talking the explosive amount of work, hundreds of poems, hundreds of stories. There's 22 Conan stories. Right? There's 22 Conan stories, but he wrote more boxing stories than he wrote Conan stories. He wrote more Western stories than he wrote Conan stories. He wrote horror stories and detective stories and poetry, hundreds and hundreds of poems. Like it just flowed out of him like he knew his time was short and he had to just expend every moment exploding with creativity, man. That's what's so crazy about it. And became the father of the sword and sorcery genre at 30 years old, the work. And that's what's so wild about it. Just the myth making that built into, the tragedy of not being able to see him do another 30, 50, 60 years worth of writing, and what kind of a writer he might have been, that you would have possibly known Robert E. Howard as a Western cowboy writer. You know what I mean? Because that was something he was very passionate about, or something like that.
Yeah. That was what he ended it, like sort of like later on, right? Like he was his career with that. Yeah.
And that's what's so crazy. And the unfinished works and the ideas, just all that material, kind of hundreds and hundreds of letters, like those authors in that period, in the pulp period, they had pen pals with each other. He was a pen pal with H.P. Lovecraft and other writers, where they would send hundreds of letters back and forth to each other, discussing politics of the day or philosophy or life. And that alone, just some of the thought process and the back and forth is so, like, you can't imagine how much material being produced by someone off in rural Texas, in the late 1920s into the 30s. And the sheer volume of material is it's staggering to me. And I read some of these stories and the turns of a phrase and the atmosphere that he's summoning out of the printed word. It's shockingly mature. It's shockingly self-evident and fully formed in a way that most 40, 50, 60-year-olds, bleed at the keyboard to try and get that kind of phrasing, that I bleed at the keyboard to try and get that kind of lyricism just for a moment. And when I was doing research on the new Conan series, I reread, of course, all the original stories, but I didn't just read them to be entertained. I read them with a notepad beside me, writing out particular lines, words, like actual vocabulary he uses that I would not have thought to use, or phrasing that he uses, not because I want to copy it one-to-one in my own writing, but I just want to get into that headspace. And I've still got those documents, and I'll look them over whenever I'm starting a new story arc. I look them over and I sort of underline things, or I sort of like kind of tuck in. And it is a sort of like a role play exercise. Like, okay, I'm never going to be Robert E. Howard. I'm never going to be Roy Thomas or Kurt Busiek or any of my other kind of favorite Conan writers. I've still got to be me, but can I get into that mode? Can I feel those feel that thunder, kind of roar out of the keyboard a little bit as I go? And when it works, man, it's pretty alchemical when you've hit a phrase properly. And it's not the way Howard would have wrote it, but it's got enough of that kind of oomph that you feel like you're even even remotely in the ballpark, that's a pretty damn special thing indeed. Yeah.
You know, and I know you think about this too, that to some people, you're kind of like that gateway to for people to
Yeah,
go.
I hope I'm the gateway for them
thing.
to explore the original writing.
Yeah, and because that happened with me, like with not with Conan. I had never really read Conan comics up until Dark Horse, right? Because I couldn't find Marvel Year stuff.
Sure, and
point,
there's so
like
much of it.
Hundreds,
yeah, totally,
right?
totally.
So I was an X-Men guy. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to stick to X-Men, Spider-Man, and Batman, and
which are all wonderful books.
Yeah, right. And it wasn't until Dark Horse started putting out the Kurt Busiek stuff, the original stuff.
Dude,
and
Carey's original run there is just absolutely jaw-dropping. Dave Stewart's colors are just like, like painted every page, man. Yeah, that knocked me out. What was funny was my first professional gig in comics. So I'm working on my webcomic still at the same time. But I moved back to Toronto and I start working for the Udon studio. Now you guys know Udon from Street Fighter and things like that.
Yeah, you and I actually talked about that. Yeah,
that's right.
It was just a studio then, though.
But it was a studio of artists, and they hired, because the studio got known for their coloring. They were winning Wizard World Awards for coloring and all that stuff. And so Dark Horse hired the Udon studio to recolor the old Conan comics for their Chronicles of Conan reprint. And so my first published credit is under my full name, because Jim Zub is a pen name. Yeah. So under Chronicles of Conan Volume 2, I colored 3 or 4 stories in there. That was my first gig. I was a colorist, and it says Jim Zubkovich of the Udon, studio or whatever. And one of the stories I colored, hilariously enough, is Frostrand's daughter. And so it's funny now, whatever, decades later, to have done an adaptation of Frostrand's daughter with Doug Braithwaite, to now be known as this Conan writer. But I've been working on Conan in one form or another for over 20 years, but just in these weird blocks. I remember being at San Diego 2003, the free comic book day. Was it free comic day? The issue 0 of Conan had come out. I don't think it was free comic day. I think it was a promo issue.
They did an issue 0. I think it was.
Yeah, but I think it was like a buck or something. Yeah. And so they were giving them away at the Dark Horse booth 2003 at San Diego, because they had just piles of them, of course, for promo. And I grabbed one and I was rocked. Like, I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And I took it over to Kurt Busiek and I got it signed, and I've got a photo with Kurt, and I'm, first of all, I'm just like a big kid. Like, I wonder if I can find that photo. If you can share my screen, I wonder if I can. I'll show you that. And it was just like the funniest, coolest thing to meet him and and I said to him, I remember saying, I'm working on Conan too. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm coloring the old Conan stories for the reprints. And he's like, oh, that's sweet. And he's just, like, what is he going to say? Who cares, kid? I'm writing the real stuff. Like, it just, whatever. It was just nice to be there. It was just cool to do it. Let me see if I can find that thing.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about. It was thanks to Jim. You can keep looking. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
It was thanks to Jim that I got Conan's Del Rey book set, and they're now some of my most loved and treasured books.
Dude, that's awesome. I did a thing. So there's a thing that these YouTubers do called it's called Sumerian September. And so every September they do these extra YouTube videos all about the original Robert E. Howard stories and about how, important they are and all that kind of stuff. And so I did a big run on them, and I really pushed hard that if you like any of my sort of analysis of the original Conan stories, you got to get the Del Rey books. They're the best reprints. They're the unedited, beautiful, original text of those Conan stories, and everything sort of flows from them. And if you get them, you're going to love them and all this kind of stuff. And so it was funny, because I had a bunch of people who told me, they were like, I was on the fence, but then you wouldn't shut up about them. So I had to go get them. And I was like, good. That's how that works. I found the photo. Perfect. It's 2002. Right. You're going to see a very young Zub with a Hawaiian shirt on. That's impressive. How do I hold on?
So you go to the little.
Oh, there it is. Monitor. Share screen. Can I share just a window? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. Boom. Do you see that?
Yes, I can.
There it is.
Oh, look at that. There we go.
Dude,
that's awesome.
Yeah. He just signed my Conan. I was so friggin' excited.
And you were working on the new colors of the Chronicles of Conan, which
I don't think anyone's seen this photo since 2002. So there you go.
So it's a near mint condition.
Fresh faced kid. Look at that guy. Wow. And you know what's really sweet? I got to tell you, the new, when I was taking over the monthly at Marvel, I was taking over Conan, and someone tagged Busiek on it. They were just like, Kurt Busiek should come back and write Conan or whatever. And Kurt was like, I did Conan, I had a great time, but that time has passed and now it's off to a new generation. And then he sent me a little note and he was like, it's yours now. Do, have as much fun with it as I did. And it's like, that's the right way to do it, man. That's be magnanimous and be cool. And, like, I don't know how long my run lasts. And I know I'm on for the next couple of years. Some people have joked and said, stay on longer, stay on for 100 issues. And you're like, sure. In my dreams, I would love to be on for 100 issues. But at some point, you got to hand the baton off to someone else. I don't want to think about that right now, but
I know, but I know you probably know this though.
Yeah.
How long did Roy Thomas stay on the book?
Oh, Roy.
No, hold on. Okay, not taking a break and then coming back, but like, how long did
the original run that Roy did was
Marvel
over 100 issues, right? Because he goes all the way through Belit passing away in 100. So he's on till at least. See, now I'm a bad fan. Am I gonna? He was.
No, you're not a bad fan because there is a little bit of a break.
He's on at least one. I want to say 120 for the original run, right? Plus Savage Sword. Now, that being said, the vast majority of Roy's stories are added. 115. We're close. Nice. Thank you. See, I said it. I thought it was 120. Close. I knew it was over 100 because 100's
unbroken, right? Like
that's unbroken, right? And plus Savage Sword. Now, the vast majority of those stories are adaptations of either Robert E. Howard Conan stories, or what he would do is because Howard had written dozens and dozens of other stories, westerns and horror stories and things like that. Yes. He would take another Robert E. Howard story, he'd file the serial numbers off it, and he would make it a Conan story.
So Red Sonja came from.
Right. That's exactly where Red Sonja came from. He took a story called Shadow of the Vulture, which is all about the Ottoman Wars and all this sort of stuff. And he took this Pistolier character and he made her, she was spelled Red Sonja with a Y. She's Red Sonja of Rogatino in the original. Mm-hmm. He would take things like, that's where Red Sonja comes from. But he would take things like whatever, the original horror story, The Black Stone, he took and he did an adaptation of it with, Conan. Or he takes the Grey God Passes and he does an adaptation of it, but with Conan. Or he takes an El Barak story and he makes plus he was taking the Al Sprague de Camp and the Lynn Carter kind of rewritten Conan stories, and he was adapting those as well. So Roy's got, I guess 115 unbroken, plus Savage Sword, plus he comes back to do some Dark Horse stuff and annuals and things like that.
He came back towards the end of the original.
So the reprint editor on Conan at Heroic was in touch with me early on, and he actually let me know this. He said, do you know how many until you're 90, that's right. Do you know how many issues Roy Thomas wrote of Conan? And I said, no, I have no idea. And he said over 300 total. Like if you put it all together,
absolutely,
all the different publishers.
Absolutely.
And I said, okay. He goes, who's number 2? And I said, I have no idea. I said, is it Kurt? And he goes, no, it's not Kurt. I was like, I don't know. It was Michael Fleischer. So Michael Fleischer was this guy who stepped in after Roy left, and he did tons of Savage Sword and tons. And his total is, I think he told me 54 issues of Conan between Savage Sword and the monthly.
Hey, Jim.
And then number 3 is oh damn, I'm trying to remember who it was.
Timotheus or
no, it's not Timotheus, it's not Chuck Dixon, it's not Kurt. No, it's not who you think it is. It surprised me too. I've got it's in my brain. I'm gonna have to like hunt it down here because I should
Truman.
know this.
Tim Truman. It's gotta be
Tim Truman. That's right. It's Tim Truman.
He's
Tim Truman. Yeah, Tim Truman's got 52 issues, I think. I'm quoting off the top of my head here, but 52 issues. So if you put together my Dark Horse stuff, the Conan Red Sonja miniseries, you put together all my Marvel issues, plus Serpent War, plus my current Titan stuff, by end of the year, I'll move into the number 2 spot. So
throw in the colors that you did for the original.
Well, I don't need to count those. But the point is if I'm on the book at the end of the year and I'm number 2, and then I have years worth, I don't want the silver medal that I can lose. I want to sprint far enough ahead that no one can catch me. That's my goal. I'll never catch Roy, but I want to be well in the silver position. Let's put it that way. So, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw that. So I've been these in collected editions.
What's that? The Savage Sword?
The
Savage Sword collections. They're great.
Everything I read is in collected edition. So I'm way behind everybody else.
Sure.
However, Savage Sword is I think they're only collecting 3 per volume, right? So
because they're such thick issues. They're pretty crazy. Yeah, they're beautiful. The reproduction looks great on them. They turned out really nice. They asked me, they said at one point, Titan was joking before we negotiated the long-term contract. They're like, how many issues of Conan do you think you want to write? I said, well, when we collect them, I want it to be in a book thick enough that if we drop it off a 3rd story landing, we'd kill a child. And they were like, sounds great. You know?
I interviewed the collected editions team at Titan.
They're great.
I made them aware that the Colossal Conan books are the ones that Dark Horse did are bigger than the Marvel Omnis and the Titan Omnis. And they were like, what? They're bigger? And I'm like, they're taller.
They're massive. They're really,
huge.
Really big.
They make you feel like a barbarian when you're picking it up.
You're bench pressing those books. They're really impressive stuff.
They were like, maybe when we're done with the Marvel stuff, we'll reprint those. And I was like, I hope so.
They're pretty sweet.
I hope you really reprint them in a freaking huge.
Well, what I'm hoping, I would love to see something like an artist edition where you take De La Torre or Braithwaite, and you do 11 by 17 original size, because those guys are both working ink. Like, those are not digital. Some people, they're like, oh, De La Torre must work digital. You're like, no, he does not. He's got
old school. I like that.
Yeah, I've got 4 pages.
I've
got 4 pages of Blackstone. So he gifted me 1, and then I bought 3, and the collectors went crazy for him when he put them on auction or whatever. So it was wild.
Yeah, he's blown up since then, man.
Oh my gosh. His originals they're so stunning.
He's so good.
Yeah, Alex Ross's art agent bought an entire issue worth of originals.
Yep, that's out of my league. So I just
I was just like, I'm glad I got the pages I got. Even then, I feel like I really, really lucked out that I was even able to get those. So
that guy's huge. I remember when he did that, he did like a backup Marvel story. I don't even know who found him. And I remember looking at his art and I was like, oh my God, it's like somebody took the DNA from Big John and also oh my God, how did they do that? And also Joe Kubert, right? Like, let's not forget, it's got like a lot of
he's got a beautiful, just a stunning understanding of storytelling. His staging is so flipping incredible. I'll show you the original here. I'll share screen again.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna share while you're looking for that. I wanted to share. There's lots
so that people aren't just staring at our faces. We can show off some cool art.
Here we go. Mr. Zub, I love your passion for writing. I have seen tons of interviews over the years, and you're always so genuine, excited to talk. Just got to know one thing. Buscema or Barry Windsor Smith?
Oh, my God. It's like trying to choose your own children here. So are you seeing
the answer, Jim.
Oh, yeah, dude. So this is the original page art that I've got from Rob.
Give me 1 second, Michael. I'll go back to that.
No problem.
Oh, nice, dude. So it is from the Blackstone story.
Yeah, it gave me a splash, and I was just like, holy crap. So, yeah, it's an absolute stunner, of course.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. All right, so back to the questions. You're asking me.
I was just reading compliments about your work, subs, comics.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, no, yeah, let's go back. Yeah, Big John or BWS?
So it's crazy because I think Barry probably has more like Red Nails as a piece of artwork is so singular and stunning in its execution, or like the Song of Red Sonja, which is issue 24, was so friggin' stunning. And I think about that in terms of storytelling and page layout, but Big John's Conan is the one I see in my head. And so that's what's really weird to me is like, I think Barry's is probably, it's in the mold of those like European graphic novels where it's like high art. And yet the Conan, when I'm imagining Conan in my mind, it's always Big John's. And so it's this weird kind of, I know that I'm trying to like have my cake and eat it too. But like, I think the best Conan for me is Buscema with Alcala on inks when they're doing Savage Sword. So then you've got Tower of the Elephant or like People of the Black Circle. Those are two of the finest pieces of comic book art ever made. And that's Buscema inked by Alcala. And the weirdest thing for me is Roy has told the story multiple times that Big John didn't like Alcala's inks.
I know.
Which is insane to me because it's like
he liked inking his own stuff because he was
sure. And of course he inked his own stuff beautifully. Yeah, but he didn't like Alcala. And I was like, I think Alcala brought out this incredible just a stunning atmosphere.
Man, it was so good.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Zub's comics have been doubling rewarding because they got me to read a lot of Robert E. Howard stories, and then he does things like
but for those of you who are watching this video, I am amazed if you stuck around this long and you're not reading Conan or a fan. But Robert E. Howard created a lot of other amazing characters. Conan stands head and shoulders in terms of visibility, but characters like Solomon Kane, who's this Puritan monster hunter, or Dark Agnes, or Kierwin and Conrad is a pretty obscure one. They're these eldritch investigators, very much in an H.P. Lovecraft mode. And I always thought they were like, I thought they were cool, and no one knows who they are. And so one of my jobs has been to give them a bit more of a spotlight and put them, elevate them so that people like them. But our ability, I told the Heroic guys, I said, not that selling comics is ever easy. It's always difficult, and the market is so complicated. But selling Conan compared to anything else is easy compared to the other characters. But if we can make a character like a Solomon Kane or a Dark Agnes or, God forbid, a Kieran and Conrad, a miniseries, and it holds its own in terms of sales, that's proof to me that we've raised the bar, that Zurcher can keep doing Solomon Kane stories and put those out, and people are just as excited for those, or even more so than some of the Conan stuff we're doing. That expands people's knowledge and love and respect for Howard's works and proves to them that it's not just a one-trick thing, that Kull the Conqueror and El Borak are just as cool as the Sumerian, Yeah, that's the task, I think. And so far we've been pretty successful. I love your writing for Conan for Titan Comics now. I know, never stop. All right. Thank you, man. I am signed on for the long haul, and I would love to stick around even longer. But the good thing is that I don't have to worry myself about that stuff until we get to like probably late 2026. And then we start having those conversations, and we know what the plan is through, I can just say it, actually 50 issues of the monthly Conan. I know where issue 50 lands. I haven't written every single one between now and 50, but I know what we're building up to, and I know why. And that's so potent because it gives us a North Star. It gives us the ability to plan. Thanks for your awesome work. Can't wait. Those thicker than a Snicker. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, man. I'm such a big fan of those, of the big books. And I remember one of my first Marvel signings, I was signing with, at the same time as Dan Slott. And, Dan's, of course, done more Spider-Man than any other writer, even more than Stan Lee. And people were bringing these just bricks, these giant omnibuses of Spider-Man, and he was signing them. And I had a weird moment where I was just like, man, I want an omnibus someday, like just one, if that ends up being, well, I guess we're already there with Conan, but if that ends up being Conan and people are bringing whatever doorstops, sized books over to a show with my name on it, that feels like we're already in a really weird space. So I have a weird humble brag I have to tell you.
All right, talk to me.
This bookshelf right here, this thinner bookshelf.
You've shown me that before.
That's the gym bookshelf. So every book on there.
Love seeing that behind you, man.
So I've written over 70 graphic novels worth of material, over 9,000 pages of comics. So these are creator-owned books and commercial books, foreign editions and omnibuses and everything else. And so the very first time I filled one shelf, I thought, well, it doesn't get better than that. And then you fill another shelf, and then you fill another shelf, and you're just like, oh my God. And we're now at a point where the bookshelf's basically full all the way top to bottom. So I need to expand which is kind of a bizarre ego thing, but also very cool. And it just reminds you, it's a nice reminder of how far you've come, you know, which is a cool feeling indeed. But I just want one shelf that's just Conan. That would be the coolest thing.
My gosh. Yes, absolutely. Is this true? And maybe you guys don't know, this is from my buddy Loheat. Maybe you guys don't know, but Jim asked Titan to give him a Conan sword as part of his contract.
Do you know about this? Did you hear about this? This was last year.
Real? Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was, we were at the launch party for Conan. This is 2023. And maybe there were a couple drinks, and we had a really, really good time. And we were celebrating the launch of Conan #1 at San Diego. And, you know, they had promised me no matter what, I was going to get 1 year on the book to sort of prove the bona fides. And the opening sales were crazy. We had amazing launch numbers, just the craziest that Titan had ever seen. And they said to me, they go, man, that long-term contract's looking really doable. I said, you know, if we sign that long-term contract, you guys should give me a sword. I just randomly said
That's awesome.
And they said, well, if it keeps selling like this, you better believe we'll give you a sword. I was like, oh, that sounds great. And so, you know, the first issue did 6 printings, and we did 3 printings of issue 2 and 3. And then when we found our level, the book was just selling phenomenally well, particularly in a tough market. And we were negotiating, and lawyers and all the stuff and accountants are chatting. We finally all come to terms. All the bullet points and all the stuff gets worked out. And we're finally at the point where we're ready to sign. And the last bit of business, the accountant guy over at Heroic just goes, is there anything else? And I don't know what I was thinking. I was just being cheeky. And I sent a reply that said, I think you guys still need to put that sword in there, you know, winky emoji thing or whatever. And my phone rings, and it's my lawyer, and he's just like, what are you doing? What is this all about? And I said, no, it's a joke. It's from like a year ago when we were at the launch party, and I said they should send me a sword. And then the phone rings again, and it's the head accountant guy for Heroic, and he goes, Jim, are you serious? And I was like, well, I wasn't, but now maybe I am. Why are you so uptight? Like, what's going on? And he just goes, oh, well, because I need to know, because we have to legally put this in the contract, and I need to know which sword you want and how that would work. And and I'm like, oh my God, we're literally talking now about this sword. Like, it's becoming weirdly real. And he said, you know, we're paying you quite well. You could just buy one of those prop swords. Like, you can buy a prop sword for whatever, $500 or something. And I said, no, but they've also got those really, really nice ones, like the forged ones and all those kinds. And he goes, sure. But, you know, I mean, you could buy one of those if you want to. And I said, it doesn't mean the same thing if I buy it myself. And there's a pause. And I said, you know, it's different if I earned it. And not just earned a physical amount of money to exchange that for an object, but like, do you guys think I earned it? Do you think the last year of work, did I earn the sword? Like, if you bequeath it to me, to get all fantasy, that means something different than if I just make a purchase and there's a receipt and whatever. And then the next draft of the contract came through, and there was a sword on my contract. And lo and behold, hold on a second.
Oh, dude. I can't believe you got a sword out. That's so cool.
So I come back from convention in Chicago.
Okay.
And this baby is delivered. And it's a movie quality replica, you know, the sort of the Atlantean blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got like, it's in this bag with sword oil and all this sort of stuff. And if you sharpen this thing, you could cut someone's head off. And I can't bring that to a convention because that's an actual weapon. And now I have an Atlantean blade. And it's the craziest, weirdest thing. And I posted a photo of myself holding it, and it went out in my newsletter. And all of a sudden, the next convention I go to, all my buddies are just like, what the hell, man? Like, Chip was like, they don't send me a Batarang. Like, what, you know, what's going on? Why does it? So it's very special. It's a really, really cool thing. And I'm very, very happy. And yeah, it feels like, you know, a good symbol of a job well done. I joked with them that if we renew, they got to send me the father sword, which is the other one from the movie. So I guess if I ever get one of those in the mail, then you'll know that we're in really good shape. So
Oh, dude, that is so cool.
Yeah, this is my life now, man. It's very, very surreal.
Yeah, I mean,
or like
that is bound. You are bound to just
yeah, dude. I was like, I remember. Can I swear on this? I don't want to swear.
Yes, go ahead, dude.
So I'm like, I was leaving New York Comic Con, and I'm walking out the door, and we're wandering downtown, and all of a sudden we're pretty far away from the convention center, and I'm just walking down the street with some of my friends, and all of a sudden some guy screams across the road, and he just says, "CROM!" He just like raised his hand, screaming "CROM," and I was like, "Yo, CROM, motherfucker!" And then, and one of my buddies just looks at me and he goes, "This is your life now." And I said, "Yeah," and I kind of couldn't be happier. That's it's a good thing to be associated with. I cannot complain. So.
that it's an amazing thing to be associated with, right? Because that's
very cool.
Like forever, you will always remember this.
Dude,
part of your life. You're having a blast.
That's what's so crazy. And because it's San Diego Comic-Con week, it feels even more special to me because this is the year. Well, not this is the year. This is the week that we celebrate. This is the week we celebrate the launch from 2 years ago. This is the, we're heading into our third year, and we're still going strong. That Conan panel is just going to like energize me. We got a Conan panel on Thursday afternoon, and it's just they're gonna be live streaming it.
Who's at the Conan panel?
So it's me and Dan Panosian.
I love that guy.
Dan's so awesome. Oh my God, he's such a brilliant artist too. And Chris Butera and Jeff Shanks, and we're all going to be hanging out and talking about Conan. And they're going to live on the Conan YouTube channel. We're gonna have some cool announcements and some exclusive art reveals, and there's going to be giveaways. If you're at the panel, you're going to get a bunch of cool swag, and they're going to do raffles and all sorts of stuff. So make sure you go. I'm signing at the Titan booth Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 1 hour per day. Plus, I'm going to be at my own Artist Alley table. I'm doing Dungeons and Dragons panels. We're doing all sorts of parties, and then we have like a Conan dinner. Like we get our crew together and we go out for a meal and celebrate, and just raise a glass that we get to keep doing this and be together, which is very, very special. So
what's in the glass?
I'm in a very wistful kind of nostalgic mood right now because of all of it.
Yeah, so, what's in the glass? What do you guys drink? Mead?
Mead. I drink a little bit of everything. I'll have beer. I'll have cider.
Okay.
We'll usually do. It just depends on what we're doing. I like a smoky old fashioned.
Oh, dude, yeah, Kentucky, man. So
yeah, that's right. Of course,
I'm a big fan of old fashions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, man. So it's going to be really cool to hang out with people in person and to just celebrate and just be together and see the fans and celebrate another year as we go into this thing. So it is just a really, really cool time. Scourge of the Serpent is looking amazing. As long as I can hit my writing deadlines tomorrow and I'm right in striking distance, I should be able to do it. So then I will have all my writing done for July and August. So then I can focus on these 5 conventions over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And, enjoy every single one of them.
Oh man! And speaking of, I know you got to get packing, so I'm gonna let this be the last question.
Any thoughts on breaking into comics publishing on the business or editorial side? I'm amidst a career shift and think sales communication. Absolutely. Okay, so here's what's interesting. I have helped a few people get into editorial, both because I did editorial over at Udon, and second of all, because it is not the kind of job that most people think of when it comes to working in comics. A lot of people, of course, think of the creative side, writing and drawing and coloring or even lettering before they think of editorial. And yet editorial makes or breaks the publishing process. You are usually the person hiring the creative team. You are casting, if you want to think of it almost like a movie, the people that are going to be making the books, and their vision and your vision of the vision, maintaining whatever the IP in the case of something where you're working for a company, or on a creator-owned book, helping the creators to understand how to clarify and really laser focus their vision is going to have a huge, a swing in terms of what the book looks like and feels like and how the market accepts it. And so what you need to do is you need to, first of all, do research on these companies and figure out who those editorial contacts are. In the case of Marvel and DC, they're broken into offices, okay? So Marvel is broken into, I think there's the Avengers office, there's the X office, there's the Spider-Man office, and then I think there's something called Marvel Heroes, if I'm not mistaken. That's what they were calling it, where it's sort of everything else, in the Marvel universe. And each of those areas has an editor, a main editor. So right now, for example, the X office is being run by Tom Brevoort, but then beneath him, there's a series of other editors, right? So you've got, like Mark Basso, for example, who runs all the Wolverine books. Knowing who you're contacting so that you're not just sending to whom it may concern, right? That you're talking to actual people. This is something I'm passionate about. Obviously, if you live in New York, or if you live in, LA for DC Comics, it's going to be a huge advantage to you, because then you're not having to move. So then you're available for things like internships or assistant editorial potential positions, where you can move into that and try it out. Having those, exactly the thing you were talking about, sales and communication skills, is really, really important. Being able to communicate your desire, both to understand the form of comics, how they work as an art form, what an editor does, how to critique and understand the art and the writing end of things, and to be able to speak and communicate your ideas clearly. That you need to, I say this all the time, our job as comics people, or anyone in creative entertainment, is entertainment and communication. That we are trying to entertain and engage our audience, and we're trying to communicate our ideas effectively. Your ability to do that with your peers, with your team, is going to make you a good editor. A good editor is not trying to subsume the people that are there. They're trying to cast the best people for the job, and then bring the best work out of them. Help them to see, flaws or holes in the material, or ways to holistically bring it in line with what the overarching company is. In the case of something like an IP, like a Conan or the Avengers or Batman or whatever may have you. And your ability to be a cheerleader and a critic of the work, to improve it, not to just sort of destroy it, is going to make you, hopefully, a good editor, and being able to communicate those ideas. When you reach out to these companies, be honest with them. Reach out to the editors and say, here are the books that I like that you work on. Here's what, I feel my taste is compatible with yours, because these are the types of stories that you seem to do, or you cast these types of writers and artists, and I feel that there's a synergy there, or whatever may have you. And just be the good communicator that you need to try and open those doors. And it's not easy. But the other thing you can do, jumping right into a Marvel or DC can be quite difficult. So look for other opportunities. Either organize editorially independent books. There are so many Kickstarter, books coming out all the time, anthologies and independent books. Offer your services for either very cheap or for free to get credits and build up experience. Say, look, I am, I have an English degree, or I have, this writing experience, and I feel I can be a good editor. I will work for you for pennies on the dollar in order to build up my, credits, because I like this project, or I think this is cool, or whatever may have you. I'm offering my services. No one in any field is going to pay you until you show them work worth paying for. And so if you don't have any editorial credits, you've got to get some. And then once you get some, then you can prove to, smaller publishers, and then mid-list publishers. And then if you want to go that far, as far as the big two, it is one of those areas of the industry that I think people will be surprised how few people apply for some of those positions. And that if you have credits and experience, you are going to be head and shoulders more qualified than a lot of others, and you can really help stand out. So someone like Drew Bongammer, he's an assistant editor in the X office now. He was literally a guy who approached me at New York Comic Con, I want to say a decade ago, and he was just like, I'm finishing up school and I think I want to get into editorial. And I introduced him to a couple other people at Marvel, and it took him a few years, and then he got his foot in the door, and now he's in the X office. And someday that guy's going to be a full editor, because he's just a really organized, really cool dude who knows the work and knows how to do it well. And so, man, I encourage you, if you want to do editorial, I can't open those doors for you, but the very fact that if you're well organized and you're thoughtful and, you're keeping an eye on what's coming out in the industry, you're probably have the right traits and can be well on your way. How about that?
Holy crap. Or you could just find Jim at a convention and stalk him.
I don't know about get you into comic book companies. If you're an amazing artist and for some reason you are undiscovered and you're absolute professional quality, yeah, bring me your work at a convention. I'm happy to show it to an editor or wave someone over and show it to them. But at that point, you've already done the hard work. You've got to make good comic pages. You got to have great coloring or lettering or whatever it is, and then bring samples over. I'm happy to look at it. I'm happy to give critique. I don't have time to do that online. I get messages from dozens and dozens of people. They want to send me their indie comics, and I'm 100% cool with reading them, but I don't have time to do like one-on-one critique. There's just no way. I'd never get my own deadline.
But you're also writing. Yeah. You're also, and you just
traveling.
I said we were going to end this because I know you got to pack, but you mentioned something that I was like, how? Oh, you were writing notes as you were reading Robert E. Howard again.
Right.
And I thought, why you're
because I want it, because here's the thing, as a mental exercise, you remember stuff you write. Whoop, I just dropped one of my earbuds. It's okay, I got the other one. Okay. You remember stuff you write down way more than so physically writing it out as I'm reading it is a way to sort of notch it into my memory so that I'm going to keep it in mind. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. I just thought, man, you're reading it again, and I'm like, wow. And you're right.
I think it's valuable. It's valuable to refresh. I also try and keep up on new comics that are being written all the time. So particularly friends of mine, if they've got new stuff coming out, I want to know. If I'm going to a convention, I don't want to be like, so what are you working on lately? Like as much as possible, I'm like, oh, dude, I read whatever. I really love it. You know, it means something because you want people to say the same thing to you, of course. But I also love keeping up on these books, or I'm just genuinely a fan of the material. You know, Chip's new Captain America is awesome. It's a great new launch.
Yeah,
I'm super excited to see where it goes. I work with Valerio Schiti, you know, when Dan and I were co-writing Iron Man together. So it just feels like visiting a couple friends. Chip's writing the new Cap book and Valerio's writing it or drawing it. I want to read that book. I'm a fan. I want to see what they're up to, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's cool.
Okay. How does someone send you an
email? So just go to my website. I've got a little contact tab there. Don't send me a file over email. I don't want a 30 meg, 40 meg attachment. Send me a download link. And understand that if it goes on my reading list, it's probably going to be weeks until I can get to it. And you're not going to get a critique. I'm just going to say, cool, great job. I like the artwork, or, you know, man, that's a neat story thing, or whatever. If you want a blurb, like you want me to, you know, looks great or whatever, you know, I could probably put that together for you if you send me your indie book. But again, it's going to take me weeks to get to it because I've got a reading list for research. I've got reading lists for, you know, new monthly books coming out and other stuff that I've got, but I'll slot it in there. You know, I'm not able to read every single thing, but I try and as much as possible. And if someone emails me, even if I give you a really short answer back, I do try and respond to people, you know, unless you're sending me like insults and crazy threats or something. I don't get a heck of a lot of those, but you know, yeah, this side of spam and crazy talk, I'm pretty good about communication.
Man, that's honestly, dude, that is above and beyond. That is really
cool. Thank you.
I've never met creators that are that open. Like, hey man, yeah, send me your stuff.
You know, there's a science fiction author named John Scalzi, and I remember going to his website and he just had his email open right there on the website. And I was like, well, that seems like a terrible idea. This New York Times bestselling author. But he's just like a really chill dude. And he always wants to make it clear that he's just a guy like everyone else. And he's a fan and he loves things. And I met him at a convention. And he was such a nice guy. And we had a great conversation. And I had that weird, awkward moment of like, oh, we should stay in touch. And he goes, yeah, well, you know, my email's on my website. And I thought, well, he's giving me the blow off. And then I looked on his website. No, it really is there. Oh my God. And I emailed him and he emailed me back like half an hour later. And he was like, yeah, it was so great meeting you. Looking forward to hanging out at another convention. I was like, oh, it's his real, genuine email. He's like a normal dude. Like, okay, that seems pretty cool.
He's like a normal dude.
That's something to aspire to. Yeah. Some people are normal dudes with swords, but otherwise we're, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately cannot travel with it. So yes, if you are at San Diego Comic-Con,
yes,
go and check out Jim. He will be hanging out at Titan and his own booth.
Yeah, GG07 is my Artist Alley table this year at San Diego.
If you can decipher that code, then take all 50 copies of your Conan book to go and
That's right. For sure.
Thank you, Jim, for joining us, and thank you everybody for watching. And if you're watching this later, please don't forget to hit that like button and check out Jim's newsletter. And also, of course, check out Conan if you haven't read his Conan and you're trying to get into it. It's the best.
Omar, you guys have been so awesome and supportive, and we are so thankful. All of us on the team deeply appreciate the support you've shown for the book, and your enthusiasm and the enthusiasm from readers like you has literally changed the course of my creative career. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh man, it is my pleasure. You know what? It's easy when it's talent like you that is working behind these books. Seriously, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm just being legit. Cool. Like, it is really good. I'm enjoying the hell out of these books, and holy crap, we're living in some good times with all these collected editions. And then Conan is just getting all kinds of love, classic stuff, new stuff, and then different formats. It's insane, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it is the best.
All right, everybody, stay healthy and safe. By CROM, we are out of here. I love that.